Hey, Dave Melinda here, Positive Polarity Podcast. Hope things are going awesome for you. I have to say that I always look for people that try and get stuff done. I'm the thinker, I'm the guy that has all these ideas, and then I want to hand it to somebody. And it's so hard to find qualified people to hand it to that have their own vision, their own ideas. And I was lucky to find one, and we'll get into that today. But Rachel Nielsen, how are you today?
I am absolutely fabulous. Had a great holiday and rested and fresh.
Ready to roll. See,
Ready to
ready to
roll.
get stuff done, right?
Always. I mean,
Ex- That's
re,
so
re,
cool.
Result Drivers is the name of the second company. Like it's
Yeah,
specific.
I know. It's like all these cool names for these companies we got to talk about. So that right now you're a founder of a company called Advanced Events. So why don't you tell us what's going on at Advanced Events?
Well, it's certainly been a year of evolution. I don't think it's a bad evolution. I'm super, super energized by everything we've been doing. I even sent out a message that we secretly love virtual events because it became almost something that people didn't want to hear about. And I think it's the greatest forced. It's the most forced situation that is phenomenal.
Sure,
Barriers are down. People can now get back to doing business instead of being distracted by the logistics.
sure.
Um, and back when I founded Advanced Events about 14 years ago, it was founded on the principle that's called Beyond Your Event methodology.
Okay,
Beyond your event. I was the only event person in the world saying, let's not talk about your event. Let's talk about your business. What are you trying to do? Don't give me logistics. We're going to define logistics based on the result, not
sure.
on the cool event. So I am 100% behind virtual and hybrid
Okay.
and live, but it's been great, and we're certainly enjoying the ride.
Well, so this is great timing then because, as we try and transition, I mean, I'm a speaker by nature and, we try and get out and we're trying to find places to speak. And it just seems that, virtual still is taking the vast majority of the time. But I mean, from a company perspective, you know, whether you are trying to get education for your team, whatever, I mean, all of a sudden, this whole Zoom, and, I use Zoom, so I'm just going to say Zoom, and it really works good. So, I'm assuming you had a transition 14 years ago when you started. It was mainly about in-person events. Is that correct?
It was largely, I mean,
Okay.
absolutely.
Yep.
We've been telecasting, simulcasting, doing when it used to be called road shows.
Okay.
So having even hybrid, where you were seeing parts of the road show live in remote locations. It was really in the beginning for global companies who didn't have the time, literally the time, to bring all of their executives into one location. It wasn't about resources. It was about, can you take your executives out of that location
Sure.
to convene them? So we've been doing hybrid and simulcast and telecast for quite some time. It's democratized now, right? Schools can do it, local organizations. And you bring up training, Dave, for you, and the way that you can reach your audience is, again, what I mentioned before, barriers are down.
Yeah.
Maybe before they could a company or an organization or an association could only get maybe one layer. Maybe it was the director layer,
Sure.
and it was a lot of train the trainer,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like where you were getting into the trainer who was then supposed to go back into the organization and train
Right.
either the higher or the lower echelon.
Sure.
Now it's, that CEO can tune in just as easily as a line worker can. So
Okay.
from a training aspect, it has opened up such huge opportunities for organizations and associations.
So where Rachel do you fit in? So if I'm a business owner and I'm listening, and I survived 2020 and I'm like, yes, I made
Oh
it
yeah.
through, right? And so now I'm feeling like we want to get back to kind of, get our eye back on the ball, so to speak, and we want to whatever, we want to educate our team, we want to connect more with our clients. I mean, if I have those ideas, because we have a lot of entrepreneurs listening that probably have those thoughts now that they're through this, where do you come in? What role do you play? Kind of unpack that for us if you could.
I'd be happy to. So what we do, we work with the leaders And it doesn't have to be the entrepreneur, although I prefer that because I'm a visionary myself, and I can run alongside those entrepreneurs who have a vision, as well as the director level. So what we do is the guidance, so that coaching, the design, and then the execution. And it's really, really important. If I can just, we're in tax time right now. Everyone's thinking about those big dollars from 2020, and are they going to owe, or what's going on?
Sure.
And if you think about it in tax terms, when I was first out of college, I was so proud to be able to do my own taxes. I was really empowered by it because
Sure.
I thought, who could protect my own interests better than me?
Sure.
Until I found out that my financial advisor wasn't doing much of the advising. And I cost myself by not investing in my own IRA. I
Okay.
cost myself thousands of dollars
Sure.
early on.
Yeah.
And I was really angry. But through that anger, I found out I don't know it all. And I have to surround myself with people who have my best interest, but their talent. And it's very similar to what we do, right? We understand the organization. We understand what that leader is trying to accomplish. And then we can go figure out the tools to utilize to do it. But we're the ones who know the industry. We know the pitfalls of certain decisions. We know the fallout. So that guidance is super, super critical for the serious leader, the serious entrepreneur who's looking to accomplish something. We figure out the how once we understand the why.
Okay. So, and that's and then that ties into the event. Once you figure that out, it's kind of like talking about the goal first. Once you figure out where you want to get to, then you figure out how that you're going to get to that location or that spot.
Exactly.
Okay.
Events of any kind are tools.
Okay.
And that's really important. Believe it or not, I can't tell you how many times we've told organizations not to hold an event.
Okay.
Seems a little counterintuitive, right?
Sure.
So I've literally cost myself work because it wasn't in the best interest of the clients that we were serving.
Sure. Wow. So who is your ideal client then, Rachel? What is like a real, if somebody's listening and they're trying to decide if you are a good fit, what are you looking for client-wise?
We love working with what we call finicky leaders, right? So somebody who's been empowered with getting something done and has no room for failure. And it's funny that we say that, but we find that there's a lot of times there are leaders. So whether it's going to be the entrepreneur leader or a director in like a Fortune 100 company, right? They've got teams. And we see all the time where their teams are a little bit disconnected because the leader has this directive, right?
Okay.
Get this done. That's all we hear. And,
Sure.
we will challenge. We're not yes men. We will challenge and say, you said you want this, yet this action is working against you. Do we need to clarify what we want, or do we need to adjust how we're getting there? We are in love with the outcome, not the process. So serving leaders and companies who are serious about getting their work done, that is ideal for us, because then it's a glorious win-win situation.
So I need to get clarification because I'm an entrepreneur and I want to get stuff done, and I want to, if my goal for 2021 is to, I'm going to use a really broad goal, is to increase my sales by X. And then I say, okay, Rachel, what do I do next? I mean, if somebody's on this call or on this, podcast right now, and we're thinking about, they're thinking in those terms, what does that look like in your world for you?
So from a generalized perspective, if you're saying you want to increase your sales, the very first question that we're going to ask is, where are you getting them now?
Okay.
Right? Where are you getting your top sales now? And trust me, we're not the sales and marketing campaign manager.
Okay.
Right. We're the ones that are saying, okay, you're looking at doing this. Maybe you're looking at expanding the podcast, or you're I know you're working with some wonderful nonprofit organizations right now. You want more nonprofit organizations. We're going to look at, how are you serving them? Is there something that you can do to maybe train them, the leaders or the training developed directors I'm assuming you're working with? How are you reaching them? And how are we designing an audience centric experience so that they want to meet with you. They want to experience what it is that the magic that you offer. And how do we look at doing that economically for you in the the time period that you want? So it's how do you relate to your audience and give them what they want that serves your best interest? And that can be a training session, it could be a recording, it could be anything. But how you interact and experience your audience is what we control.
So let me throw this out to you. This is a off the cuff question that you may not.
They all are. It's great.
Yeah, exactly, right. Yeah, so that's how we roll. So I'm thinking now with the iPhone 12, we'll call, I don't know, whatever this is. I got a 7 or whatever, I don't even know, but whatever, this iPhone, I can take a video and I can throw it on LinkedIn and I can think, you know what, did my job, got my message out to people, I'm set. I mean, that's going on a lot today, right? I mean, I don't know about you, but I see a lot of that type of thing going on, on LinkedIn. So from, in my mind, that's like a super mini event. And maybe I'm way off on that, but it's taking information that I have and getting it to people that I want to get it to. So what suggestions would you have for me or anybody that's kind of in that thought process right now? That's the extent of the way they deliver their message. Is there any feedback or tips that you can help us with?
Absolutely. I always have thoughts. Come on.
Good.
So the way we break it down is two very important factors: controlling your message and influencing your audience.
Okay.
Right? If you want a result of any kind, you need to control your message and influence your audience to behave, believe, act in the way that you want them to, right?
Okay.
At the very, very basic core, it's those two components. Now, what we look at is, are you supporting or sabotaging those two efforts? So you are supporting, let's look at doing an iPhone video and putting it up on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
You are absolutely in control of your message, right? Fine. We'll just leave that one there.
Sure.
Are you influencing your audience to know, see, feel, or do what you want them to do?
Okay.
You have no idea.
Okay.
So, what we may look at is the message, again, audience centric. Who are you trying to reach? All of LinkedIn? Segments of LinkedIn?
Okay.
If we look at the segment of, you're looking at, let's just say thought leaders or trainers, to make it more personal for you.
Mm-hmm.
If you're looking to reach trainers, we would go back to the message and see, is it really serving the trainer mindset?
Okay.
Right? Is it serving you or is it serving them? Right? We still want your outcome. We're not crazy. We're not
Sure.
just looking to give everything away. You have a certain income or outcome that you're looking for.
Right.
But we would look at, is that message really reaching them and giving them what they need at the moment they need it? Or is it just noise?
So how would we, and I appreciate that you were able to answer that off the cuff because I thought I had you. So yes.
Hopefully I went where you wanted me to.
Yeah, no, I mean, there's no right or wrong. I'm learning right along with the audience right now. So that's the cool part about it, Rachel, because I'm in that situation where, I mean, I have a business to run. I have clients, you have all these things, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh my gosh, maybe I should do this, whatever this is, deliver a message somehow, connect with my audience, whatever it is. There's so many different ways for different people. And so there's no right or wrong, but I'm looking at this, I'm stuck on your coaching, design, and execute, because I think the design and the execute are kind of the easy part in comparison to the coaching part. If you don't know what I need, and I don't know what I need, I mean, there's probably a ton of people listening that they don't know what they need. They just, that's why I wrote Growing on Purpose, because so many people grow by mistake. There's so many companies that I run into, nationally here, that just grow by mistake. And you ask them how they did it, they don't know. Or, they got lucky, or, and they don't say I got lucky, but you can tell by their answer, they don't have a very strategic plan on how they got from A to B. I'm assuming events. I mean, I love events because there's so many positive things that are going on in one space. But I want to do it in a way. I need to be coached so that I'm doing it in the right way. And whether it's throwing a little message on LinkedIn, a video, or it's a full blown 3-day summit, I mean, I was part of your e-network series for entrepreneurs. That's how we met.
Yep.
So kind of help us, if somebody's interested in sharing their knowledge, because I tell, whether it's sales professionals, entrepreneurs, business owners, anybody out in business has something that is worthy to share with somebody else. It takes a lot of guts. It takes a lot of practice. It takes a lot of, determination to actually be successful at it. But so the e-network piece of your life, kind of how did that come about, and where is that headed? Because I love the name e-network. That's kind of how I got attracted to it to begin with. So, and then you put series for entrepreneurs. It's like, oh my gosh, this is awesome. So that's you taking your advanced events and putting, teeth to it, right?
It absolutely is.
Okay.
Well, and I'm happy to hear it resonated with you.
Yeah.
So there was a lot in that question.
Yeah.
And
Sorry. That's how I roll. You pick out a spot and we'll jump in.
No, I'm ready for it. I'm absolutely ready for it. So first of all, the growing by mistake. And I don't want to correlate e-network series, especially the series for entrepreneurs, as a mistake, but it was incredibly, incredibly purposeful, answering a need.
Yep.
So when you talk about growing by mistake, events have been mistakenly beneficial to organizations. And it's been one of my biggest frustrations over my career of 20 plus years, that understanding what you're trying to do and being certain that you're doing that. And I'm not just talking about ROI. I'm talking about, let's take the trade show, right? You have a massive expense of people coming in, you're participating in a trade show, you're watching people go up and down the aisle. We would ask the question to our clients, number one, what is it that you need people to know from 100 feet away, 10 feet away, and 1 foot away before you've opened your mouth, right? How are you controlling that? Then we're talking about, okay, once you have a lead, what is it you're doing with that? Who is prepared to take action?
Sure.
And so we're talking about this, growing by mistake. There were so many organizations that didn't have an effective, well thought out plan. They thought handing it off to to so-and-so.
Yep.
Another question we would ask just for our trade show clients is, you're there with all of your competitors. What message are you controlling that the competitors are getting? Right? What do you want them to know? And so there's different ways of looking at what you're trying to do. Sometimes you're so close to your own needs that it's very, very foggy. We're in that situation now. So when we went into e-network series, we knew that organizations and leaders were absolutely struggling with how to connect meaningfully with either new audiences, new vendors, new networks, like-minded people, right? The need to connect, the need for community was significant.
Right.
But no one knew how.
Right.
We came up with words like Zoom fatigue, where everybody in the first 3.5 weeks of quarantine went into learning everything they could, every podcast, every training, every how to. They went into, these were awful events. I don't want to be there. I don't want to be spoken to. So that is literally how e-network series came in, because we had organizations that they were looking to replicate what they did live online.
Okay.
And what we're looking at doing, and this is very important. So if you've been casually listening, everybody listen here. This is important.
This is it. Pull over if you need to.
Exactly. Come back to us. So what's really important is not designing live to be online. It's designing for what you're trying to do, and then designing a virtual event. Let me give you an example. So I'm part of the Goldman Sachs 10,000 Small Business alumni.
Awesome. I was going to ask you about that. So
Oh my
Tell us
gosh.
tell us.
If anybody ever wants to know about that program, it's absolutely phenomenal. I support it wholeheartedly. I graduated in 2014, still going strong in the community. I'm a captain for our Storm the Hill, Capitol Hill visits next week. And why this is important, let me explain how a virtual event can be more beneficial and more relevant than a live event.
Okay.
Lobbying Congress has been happening since Congress started, right?
Yep.
If you look on Bloomberg Television, CBS Live, it's all recent coverage. So overnight, so we're doing virtual Capitol Hill meetings. I think there's about 4,000 to 6,000 of us who are having these meetings. Nothing new, nothing newsworthy.
Sure.
What we've done is overnight 10,000 lawn signs were put up on Capitol Hill. There is not one worker, one staffer, or one congressperson who is going into work without being able to see this message.
Okay.
The tagline is very strong. Lose small, lose big, right? If our small businesses are suffering,
sure,
the country's going to be suffering.
Sure.
So just the small tactic of being able to create virtual presence and then do some interviews with that as the backdrop, our message is being heard where it never would have been heard before. So it's a really interesting way that if you think about what is the impact you're trying to make, what is the message you're trying to control, you can do it very differently. Barriers are down. It's the Wild West.
Mm-hmm.
And if you really design with your outcome in mind, it's phenomenally successful.
Okay. So are you, do you think that we'll abandon live events, or do you think it'll just kind of land in a spot where it's some live, some virtual in the future? Or what do you think the next 3 to 5 years looks like in that remark?
Again, I'm incredibly energized. No, I don't think live is going away. There's an absolute purpose for that.
Sure.
Their hybrid, I think, will be the new norm, where you're designing simultaneously. Again, they're different reasons. There has to be a reason for me to turn the camera on and not just listen to this at my convenience, right? If you're gonna congregate people virtually, there has to be a reason. It still has to be audience centric. And there are elements of live that can only be produced live, right? We haven't quite mastered smell-o-vision yet, right? If you're going to be in the room and feel the room,
sure,
smell the room, experience the room, hug somebody,
sure,
you need to be in person,
right?
But I think it's going to be purposeful. I think the right audiences are going to be congregated, not just any audience, right? It's not just about seeing if it was successful. It's about purposely designing it. So I think that the awakening is going to be significant, which is exactly what we've been doing this entire time. So again, that guidance before the design and execution. Execution has to happen. Anybody can hold an event, right? Like that isn't, it's understanding that each decision you make, whether virtual or live, is either supporting or sabotaging your outcome. And I unknowingly sabotaged thousands of dollars out of my own pocket. I did it with my own business. I thought I had my own best interest at heart. And I cost myself significant cash because I didn't have the right guidance.
So I wrote down new audience because that kind of piqued my interest. And I'm sure that someone listening now is thinking, okay, how do I get a new audience? How do I expand my bandwidth, expand my reach? So I'm going to use me as an example, and then hopefully you can help me with this. So this is my free counseling for the day from Rachel Nielsen. So thank you for turn off everybody else. Don't listen because this is just for me, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So I do monthly events. They used to be at the Better Business Bureau, Milwaukee, and when we were live, and we were averaging 30 to 40 people would show up, and we would do different topics every month, provide lunch, had a sponsor, and, different things like that. And it was designed for me because I knew if I spoke to X number of people, I would get exposure, I'd get a new client, I'd sell books, I would sell some disc assessments. There was, and I was able to give back to the community by providing them for free, which was cool. When we transitioned into that 2020, we took them virtual. the attendance dropped, probably because I thought that I would do the exact same thing, market it the same way, do it the same way. Well, my 40 went to 15, back up to probably around 20 to 25, somewhere in there. Now I'm looking at 2021 and I'm like, okay, do I want to do this? Does it make sense? What could I do better moving forward? So what advice would you have for somebody that is, in that space, i.e. me? What do I'm just assuming it's going to be virtual again for the year. If it changes, great, but I just have to kind of plan that it's going to be virtual. So when someone comes to you with that, Rachel, I know I missed the boat. I know I missed something. Something didn't connect because, our attendance dropped. The engagement is really hard. And again, I'm asking you a ton of questions, but I'm just like, I would come to you and go, help. I don't know what the heck happened. I want a new audience. I like the fact that half of my people every month are new people. I have a following of people that hang out with us every month, but then I have these new people. So just from a real world experience, where do you think I could have, went a different direction, or what did I do? Or maybe that's just the nature of the beast. So I'll let you unpack that now.
Absolutely. No, absolutely. And this is exactly, if anyone goes to advancedevents.net, you can schedule a complimentary 45-minute result that matter discovery session, right? It's basically the same thing as counseling. It's corporate counseling.
Oh, nice. All right. So 45 minutes for free.
45 minutes. Like, that
Sweet.
is off the bat, where we literally dive into not us, not our process, not us trying to sell you something. Let's just look at that discovery session of what are your results that matter.
Okay.
So taking your scenario of 2020 and your sessions that were for the Better Business Bureau, going online, give me a one sentence. What is your offering? Why would somebody come? What are they getting to come?
Well, so in person, there was a two-pronged approach. It was networking and education. Those were the two things from an in-person perspective that, happened on a consistent basis. I mean, I know people there that got jobs when they connected with other people. I know people that, turned into clients for other people. I mean, I love connecting dots like that. So that really excited me, seeing that go on. In addition to that, there was the education piece. So those would be my sentences, is that there's dot connecting and education.
Okay. So tell me what kind of education. Tell me a little bit about how you educated. Were you talking, handouts, slides?
Yeah, so we did a PowerPoint presentation. So we would do it for about 45, 50 minutes. It would be a PowerPoint. It was interactive. 2020 was the year of the customer. So we did all about, customer experience. We did it was all about selling technique. It was just all about the customer. So that was the theme for 2020. 2019 was soft skills that produced hard results. So that's kind of how that looks.
Okay. And when you were live, what did the networking look like?
When it was live, so we would get there at about 11:45, and I would tell people, you grab something to eat, and then until 12, there would be networking, and then we would network on the back end of it as well, stop around 5 to 1 until like 1:15. If people had to leave, they could, but throughout, I knew I had to encourage people. So, and I didn't make them sit there, but the reality is I told everybody, if you leave and you didn't meet somebody, that's on you, okay? That's not on me. I set the table for you. So hopefully you met one person that you could help, or one person that could help you.
Okay.
Am I failing this? I feel like I'm failing.
Why?
I don't know.
All you're doing is answering questions.
Good. All right, good.
But you had success.
Yes.
Right? You had success. It was a formula that was working.
Yep.
I'm not judging your
I'm waiting for that. Good. Okay, cool.
We're harsh, but not mean.
That's good. Awesome. Thank you. Well, thank you.
So in your own words, and I'm not challenging you, right? Like, we might go a little bit deeper into how it's serving you when we're
Sure.
actually, working in on a one-on-one situation.
Sure.
But at face value, networking and the educational component were really important to this audience.
Correct.
When you went to your virtual situation, how did you facilitate networking?
Well, we tried to do it in a way where we encouraged everyone to put their name in the chat box with contact information. We encourage people to look who's all on the call and really find one person. At the beginning of each meeting, I said, hey, somebody on here needs what you have, and you need something from somebody here. So do yourself a favor and find somebody here, that needs what you have. And that's that's exactly how I facilitate
And
it.
those are wonderful catalysts for people who are really excellent at networking.
Okay. Yep.
I'm an introvert and I absolutely despise networking. But give me a conversation
Sure.
and I am engaged because
Yep.
I feel like I'm a human being in a human conversation.
Sure.
Networking for dummies is really what was invented for me.
Okay.
So I love if networking is a component that is really resonating with this audience, being able to promise some one-on-one conversations.
Okay.
Design your education to be highly interactive.
Okay.
When you started talking, you talked about there have been some very valuable hiring and business deals being done. But it sounds like there was some sort of a personal introduction done, like where it wasn't just you were both in the buffet line, right?
Correct.
There was some sort of a context.
Yeah, in person, I would go make sure everybody went around the room and introduced themselves and said what company they worked for. And then we always had a fun question, Summerfest or State Fair or your favorite band or whatever, just to kind of break the ice so people had a comfort level in
networking for dummies. Right. That is networking for dummies. That is giving people something to talk about besides the weather.
Gotcha.
Or business.
Yep.
Right? Because we're people, not just what we do.
Correct.
So for example, when you go into the virtual environment, or even if you're in the live environment, creating opportunities for conversation, peer-to-peer conversation, whether it's going to be one-on-one or small group. So, looking at that, the other thing is you're talking about a 45-minute PowerPoint presentation. I don't experience too many people, unless they're doctors, who are listening to lectures, right? We've all graduated school and we're in the workforce now.
Sure.
So where a PowerPoint presentation has a time and a place, in this situation, you're really talking about Better Business Bureau interaction, tidbits of information, soft skills for hard results. Is that what it was?
Yep.
I love that name. Being able to give the soft skill and then give an opportunity to practice it, to internalize it.
Gotcha.
Something you certainly experienced in the eNetwork Entrepreneur Series.
Right. Yep.
We were talking about active listening.
Yep.
And posing something really important and then letting everybody talk about it, internalize it. Right. And that's where relationships are created. So if we were to take your Better Business Bureau event and really purposely designed it around networking opportunities for dummies.
Okay.
So for me, it's not about, I don't want to hear the word networking. What I do want to hear about is how many one-on-one conversations am I going to have with other like-minded peers?
Okay.
Or people who are in the same situation that I'm in.
Okay.
I'm going to, the content that's being delivered in a manner where we have small group discussion on it so that you walk away understanding the tool and how to activate on it, right? Like how you create your message and control your message and how you control the experience to give the audience-centric experience will serve your purpose.
Yeah, I love that practice piece. I mean, that's that it would be great to understand that more. I mean, I think about the team meetings that go on right now, on Zoom, and there's how many ever people on your screen. I mean, the etiquette and the challenges that are going on right there are that's a podcast in itself. So
absolutely.
Yeah,
can I just be? I want to sit in the room for that one.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's just like it's crazy all the stuff, but I mean, so I think about the one-on-one conversation that you're talking about, and I think that you're right. There's a lot of people that don't like the word networking.
Mhm.
Just like in my sales training, there's a lot of people that despise role playing. I mean, they're calling in sick the day they know that there's role playing. But when we call it practicing, all of a sudden it creates a whole different,
Mhm.
environment. So I thank you for sharing that one-on-one conversation versus networking, because that does obviously change the whole outcome of that
Right.
and the outlook of it. So
Well, and interactive, right? Like, so you mentioned that the PowerPoint presentation was offered in an interactive format.
correct.
So what that means, like, we would challenge, prove it up front.
Sure.
How many minutes of interaction versus talking head?
Gotcha.
Um, and the reason why we do it that way is we're adults and want to be treated as adults.
Right.
So, and entrepreneurs, I know you work with entrepreneurs significantly, as do I.
Right.
We don't like to admit that we don't know something. We are
Correct.
absolutely, as a group, I'm, speaking, somewhat judgmentally here, that saying we have a gap in our knowledge, no problem. Who's going to fill our gap?
Right.
Right? We don't want to admit that we don't know anything about the
Yeah.
subject. When it comes to, like, here's one of my vulnerabilities. You mentioned sales earlier.
Yeah.
2020 is the year that I learned the difference between sales and marketing.
Okay.
Now, I'm a Goldman Sachs 10,000 small business, very proud alumni. I have won awards from Enterprising Women, internationally.
Sure.
We've done great business. I didn't really truly understand the difference between sales and marketing because we have such an incredibly strong reputation. My ideal clients were recommending ideal clients. So I didn't understand niche marketing. I didn't
Sure.
understand that you had to get out there with a message, and that was different than sales.
Yeah.
So, point being, prove, when you say an interactive experience, prove it,
Yeah.
and really test yourself. Is it interactive? Am I treating my audience as the adults that they are and giving them what they want? And here's another, again, if you've been passively listening, this is a good time. For anybody who's the trainer or the person who's responsible for creating content, that's a daunting thing.
Yeah.
Get an audience what they want and give them an opportunity to talk. They fill in the content for you. They fill in the time, and they're going to tell you how brilliant you were for creating it. When all you're doing is giving an opportunity for them to take something that they need, a gap in their knowledge base, and talk about it and dissect it for you. It's great.
So, Rachel, how do you know, because my in-persons are way more interactive than the Zoom calls for me, just full disclosure,
Mm-hmm.
because it's real easy to play off the energy of somebody in the room. It's real easy, list every soft skill has an exercise. Everything I do has an exercise, whether I'm using my magic 8 ball or I'm using Charlie Brown and Lucy. I mean, everything's got something to kind of get their attention. It's hard to get, at least for me, maybe this is a blind spot for me that I need help on. It seems to be a lot harder to get the feedback from somebody on, a Zoom call, because what I do in the audience is like, that's one thing that I try and do is when somebody introduces themselves, like if you're in my audience and I'd be like, Rachel, what do you think about that? It's so easy to do that. I feel like it's harder to do, especially for the people that don't put their screen on, or they don't, they're not showing video and different things like that. So do you have any ideas on how to get people interacting on a Zoom call like that?
Absolutely. And while you were speaking, I don't know if you noticed that I renamed my own box in our Brady Bunch boxes here. And this is something that you experienced in the eNetwork Entrepreneur Series.
Yes.
And so, first and foremost, when you're speaking in a room, we're going to put you in what we're going to call the facilitator role, right?
Okay.
As much as you are broadcasting your content, you're also facilitating the experience. So whether it's one person, you have a moderator, like there's all kinds of ways of doing that. But you are legitimately the facilitator of that experience.
Right.
And again, we want to be audience centric. So in eNetwork Entrepreneur Series, we had instructed everybody, all of our members, all of our participants, that we're here to serve them. And we want them to have the experience they're looking for. Meaning, if they're interested in the content, but they really don't want to be on camera, or they can't be on camera, or they're here, but they're also watching their children e-learn. It doesn't matter what it is.
Sure.
We wanted them to experience it to the fullest extent they were ready to experience. So we came up with the naming mechanism to help the facilitator understand where the audience was.
Okay.
So for example, I have renamed myself Listen, Rachel Nielsen Advanced Events. And what that is, it's a cue to Dave as the facilitator that I am here as much as I can be right now, but please don't call on me. I'm not in that, I'm not in a situation where I can fully participate right now.
Oh my gosh, that's brilliant.
So I'm cueing to you, I'm here, but I'm not able.
Okay.
And all I have to do when I want to change that ability is take that out.
Wow.
Right?
Okay.
And now I'm here. So again, if I'm on Listen, Rachel Nielsen, and I go off camera,
yeah,
you're not offended, first of all.
Yeah.
You're not going, oh my gosh, they dropped.
Yep.
Wait, what? Well, you know why they dropped? The doorbell rang and their dog is barking, and they don't want you to see their butt on camera as they walk away. Right?
Yep.
So it's a way of boosting that interactive ability in controlling the energy.
Oh man, that's awesome. That is so cool. That's great.
One of the tips and tricks that we.
Yeah. So if you are facilitating any of those meetings moving forward, you in the bottom corner is your name. I mean, if somebody on your team can't participate, they're listening. Maybe like Rachel just said, listen versus speak. I mean, create whatever wording you need that's uniform for the group. But what a great tip, because it's never. I mean, for me, it's always like I call on somebody, and then it's like, okay. You see the little red line through the microphone, so they're on mute, and it's like, okay, Johnny, you there? Mm-hmm. And then silent. I mean, nothing creates more of an energy drain than calling on somebody that's not there. It's just so hard as a facilitator of that group. So
yes.
What other, as we start to come in for a landing today, Rachel, what other tips would you have for a successful virtual event?
Honestly, knowing who your audience is,
okay.
And calling something interactive is one step. But if you really want to be a senior level designer, look at the number of minutes you have that are interactive.
Okay.
Look at, and here's the question: does it matter that they tune in? Does it matter that, okay, it's being broadcasted, and whether it's simulive, pre-recorded, however it may happen, does it matter that they turned their camera on? Because that is that question. If you have a segment of your audience that it doesn't matter, you're not getting that, then don't invite them.
Okay.
Right. So
is there an expectation? So let me interrupt you real quick before you go on. Is there an expectation if I invite somebody to a Zoom meeting, or I put on an event, or I put on whatever, networking or one-on-one conversations, whatever, if I put on something where there's other people on the Zoom call, is there an expectation that I should lay out ahead of time for what my expectations are as the facilitator of that? Is that what you're saying?
I would say, again, because we look at it in a serving capacity. So yes, laying out expectations, but also laying out what they can expect. I talked earlier about the barriers being down, and maybe now you might get that C-level audience that you wouldn't garner earlier.
Yep.
Being able to say when their most valuable opportunity to listen or to tune in or to participate would be.
Okay.
Defining that for them so that you understand. I mean, how many Zoom, whether it's a podcast or a meeting, I tell my team, like, we know exactly how our clients work. And there's our own internal meetings with our clients that you don't have to be on time. because at the first 4 minutes are going to be checking their computer, hold on, they're coming
Sure.
from another thing. So we have now started those meetings. We don't schedule them for 3 p.m. We schedule them for 3:10 p.m.
Okay.
because people need a 10-minute break.
Gotcha.
And we've gotten so much response of thank you, I needed to grab lunch, or I just needed to go to the bathroom, or whatever it may be. So we're communicating up front now, even in our live broadcasts. Our clients are communicating kind of what is the expectation. We're inviting C-level audiences for the first 20 minutes. Not just, okay, we're going to have a high-level keynote speaker at this time, but we anticipate C-level interactive, high-quality conversation for the first 20 minutes. After that, it's going to be a little bit more detailed, getting into the application of whatever information, right? Like, so you're meeting people where they're at.
Okay.
Because to control when you get their attention.
Sure. Well, I like the 12:10, 12:15. I mean, I think that's really, because if we start an event at noon, boy, and especially now with Zoom, they make you either have a passcode or you have to get permission to enter. So when I start an event at noon and I'm 12:04 and I'm seeing people still coming in, I have to push the button, act like I'm still, still engaging with the audience, push the button, see who it is, it's like there's all these things. So,
Well, on that note,
yeah.
So, some of these tips and tricks, it's like, oh, it sounds so easy. So if you are the person who is actually facilitating the meeting, the event.
Yeah.
So every meeting we consider an experience.
Okay.
Right. Our podcast together here, this is an experience just as much. Dave and I were both on 2 or 3 minutes early.
Yep.
Because that's who we are. Right.
Yep.
So if you are going to go the route of, or if someone is going to go the route of starting meetings at 12:10 to give people that opportunity, we absolutely know that human nature is to start at the top of the hour. So we make sure that we or somebody from our staff is on at noon.
Okay.
To welcome everybody.
Gotcha.
And say you have 10 minutes. Please feel free to take, you can go off mute. You can go off camera. Thank you for coming in. This was scheduled at 12:10. Feel free to grab a drink or, whatever it may be.
Sure.
So we don't leave it that we're going to just start the messiness at 12:10.
Okay.
We allow for that 10 minutes of buffer. And again, give people just a chance to either chit chat beforehand.
Sure.
But know what the expectation is at 12:10.
Nice. That's awesome. Cool. So let me ask this a couple more questions and then I'll let you go. Tip of the week from Rachel Nielsen. What is your tip of the week for people listening?
My tip of the week is honestly to go back to the beginning.
Okay.
So it's a year of energy and great opportunity, but when you hit that wall of overwhelm or confusion, go back to the beginning and remember why you're doing something and see if the confusion is still necessary, right? Or is there clarity in I know why this is so confusing. It's not serving my purpose.
Oh, okay. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's easy to forget why, right? I mean, that's
every decision can take us further away from why we started something.
Yeah, absolutely.
Being busy is not a sign of productivity.
Well, hey, you just want to get stuff done, Rachel. So just
I am. Get it done and get it done right the first time.
Yeah. Oh, now you add that stipulation to it. That's even worse. Oh. All right, last question for you. What is one thing that most people don't know about Rachel Nielsen that you feel comfortable sharing with the audience?
Well, I've already shared that I'm an introvert. Yep. I've already shared that I'm horrible. I didn't know the difference between sales and marketing. Honestly, I was built for COVID. Like I was built to stay home with my family, snuggle up and think. Okay. I live in my head. I live in the future in my head.
Okay.
And so I see things as just pure opportunity, but I want to do that from my own couch.
Comfort of the couch. Well, thanks for getting off the couch to be on this podcast today. I learned a ton. I have a ton of notes. I'm going to encourage people to jump on advancedevents.net and sign up for that 45 minutes of free consultation. I'm sure that there's a ton of value there. What's the best way for people that want to learn more about you, Rachel? What's the best way for them to get in contact with you?
Honestly, I have a lot of information on LinkedIn. You'll see me. I'm a purist. Who you see is who you get. I don't throw punches. I don't put on a facade. Um, I So LinkedIn, Rachel Nielsen. The companies are Advanced Events, Result Drivers, eNetwork Series, etechcheck.com. There's a whole bunch of them in there,
Holy
but
cow, we didn't talk about any of that. So
I
I am
know.
going to have to get you back here and we're going to have to continue this conversation. This 55 minutes or so just flew by. So thank you so much for hanging out. And,
Absolutely.
I was going to say, I look forward to seeing you out and about, but because you'd rather be on your couch, we probably won't see you out and about.
No,
But hey, now you enjoy Zoom. So that's
yeah,
awesome. And,
exactly. And there's
and is it,
many platforms out there. And Dave, I'm going to send you one that I think might help with your networking events as well.
Oh, great. Thank you. Is the
Yeah,
e-network series for entrepreneurs going to be extended into 2021 for those people that are listening?
it absolutely is the winter series. We do them in 8-week installments simply
Okay.
because it feels a little bit easier to commit to.
Okay.
But yes, eatnetworkseries.com. Uh, Lots of information there about, and people can host their own e-network series. Our entrepreneur series will be starting up in late January.
Awesome. Well, there's a ton of stuff. And as I close this out today, I always tell people, let's create our own opportunities. I hear so many people that say there's no opportunities out there. There's nothing. The pipeline's dry. The funnel's empty. Whatever you use for your excuse, I totally get. It's probably a valid excuse. It's probably a valid situation. There is hopefully a comma after it, not a period. The comma finish that sentence and create an opportunity. Today Rachel gave us a ton of ways to create new opportunities. Maybe you never thought of having your own e-network series. Maybe you never thought of creating your own podcast. Maybe you never thought of doing your own event. These are really daunting tasks. I totally get. I do them, but 5 years ago, I never in a million years would have thought that I would have wrote an Amazon #1 best-selling book. I never would have thought I'd be on a podcast, but yet I'm doing them. And it's people like Rachel that encourage me to do that. I'm here and Rachel's here to encourage you to do it. If you have any inkling of any of that, if there was any spark that just kind of a little bit of spark in your heart, just call Rachel. She'll be happy to help you. And, call me. I'll be happy to help. I'll facilitate any way that I can. But I just don't want you to get stuck and not know how to get out, because there are a ton of opportunities in life here, even in 2021. So look forward to seeing you again on your couch. Thanks again for hanging out, and looking forward to the e-network series, and just excited to see what Advanced Events has going forward. So thank you for your time.
Thank you, Dave, and well said. Paying it forward is a core value of mine. So thank
Awesome.
you. All right,
Good.
take
Well, hey,
care.
thank you again, and we'll talk soon.